fisherman who couldn't even dream of owning a car. Son of that fisherman started the revolution in the whole automobile industry. Yes, we're talking about Jujiro Matsuda, the wonder son of a poor fisherman, the man who started Mazda. Join us in today's video as we'll tell you the story of a son of a small fisherman to start the inspiring Mazda brand. Also, before we begin, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more business stories. And with that being said, let's begin. Now, talking about the early days, Jujiro Matsuda, the founder of Mazda, was born on August 8, 1875 in the cool city of Hiroshima, the son of a fisherman. Now, just like a typical hard-working Japanese native, at the age of 14, he was apprenticed to a blacksmith in Osaka. Now, he has always been a bright kid. So no later than 1906, he invented the Matsuda-type pump. And later on, he took over management of the foundry at which he had been apprenticed and changed its name to Matsuda Pump Partnership. But unfortunately, for the better or worse, he was forced out of his company. Then he started an armament manufacturer and named Matsuda Works. The company prospered when it was commissioned as a supplier to the Tsar of Russia and manufactured the Type 99 rifle for the Japanese military. Now later on, he shifted the focus of the company towards automobiles. In its starting days, Mazda started its life as a cork manufacturer back in 1920. Now, have you ever wondered how a Mazda got its name? Well, the name Mazda was introduced to Japan in October 1931. The year 1931 was when Mazda, then called the Toyo Kogyo Co. Limited, launched the Mazda-Go, a tricycle truck, which is the first vehicle coming out of the company. The naming of the tricycle was done by Jujiro Matsuda, the second president and the substantial founder of Toyo Kogyo, and other key members. Made by a company that was then managed by Matsuda, the name Mazda-Go sounded fitting enough. The question is, how it was spelled Mazda instead of Matsuda? Well, according to the company, Mazda comes from Ahura Mazda, the god of harmony, intelligence, and wisdom from the earliest civilization in West Asia. Key members of Toyo Kogyo interpreted Mazda as a symbol of the beginning of the East and the West civilization, but also a symbol of the automotive civilization and culture, and striving to make a contribution to world peace and to be a light in the automotive industry. Toyo Kogyo was then renamed Mazda Motor Corporation. Mazda was also a perfect way to pay respect to the founder of the company, Matsuda, which is pronounced very close to Mazda. Other than the name thing, have you ever noticed that if you look at Mazda's corporate mark, all the letters except a letter D are in lower cases? Why is that? Well, that was because of design. Mazda wanted to express precision and reliability as a car company by aligning top and bottom lines of its corporate mark. A letter D in a lowercase protruded the upper line, so the decision was made to use an uppercase for a letter D to make the corporate mark neatly fit into a rectangle. Names aside, why do you think Mazda came into the automobiles? Well, that also has an interesting story. As we discussed earlier, Mazda was founded as a cork manufacturing company in Japan in 1920. What made Mazda enter the automobile industry was a prototype motorcycle that the company began developing back in 1929. In Japan, motorcycle racing at that time was at the height of its popularity. Now, in Hiroshima, motor racing was a regular attraction at a memorial service called Shinken no Matsuri for the war dead. Most of the motorcycles were either imported or built in Japan with imported parts. Mazda, or Toyo Kogyo Co. Limited as the company was known back then, wanted to make a domestic-made motorcycle, and the company really meant it. Toyo Kogyo began development of the prototype in 1929. In October 1930, Toyo Kogyo's own motorcycle powered by the 250cc two-stroke engine entered the motor racing at Shinken no Matsuri. To everyone's surprise, the Toyo Kogyo motorcycle beat the British-made Ariel, which was a firm favorite, and won the race at its very first attempt. That proves the brand of Japanese-made. At those times, the Ariel was one of the most popular motorcycle manufacturers in the world and was commonly seen in Japan. Later on, Mazda went on to produce 30 motorcycle units in the same year, sold with a trademark designed by combining the company emblem and Toyo Kogyo letterings. Each motorcycle was priced at 350 to 380 Japanese yen at that time. In the current value, it would be around $31.8 thousand to $34.5 thousand. Following the success it had with motorcycles, Toyo Kogyo soon shifted its focus to production of three-wheel trucks. But sadly, Mazda's history of motorcycles began and ended with those 30 units. You could say entering the race with a just completed motorcycle and winning the race marked a glorious beginning of Mazda's motorsports heritage. Then, the war broke out. But rising from the ashes of the Pacific War, Hiroshima is a city that restored itself and has since flourished as the city of peace. In 1945, just 4 months after the end of the Pacific War was declared, Mazda resumed production of its tricycle trucks. Back then, the city of Hiroshima was going through a slow recovery process, and the citizens were badly in need of trucks for carrying daily necessities to survive. Jujiro Matsuda, then president of Mazda Motor, and his eldest son, Tsuneji, both hailing from Mazda's founding family, felt that it was their mission to quickly deliver the company's affordable tricycle trucks to the people in Hiroshima. 2 years later, the company produced 2,430 units of tricycle trucks annually, which was the largest production volume in the industry in 1947. The Matsuda family's dedication to speeding up the recovery of Hiroshima touched the hearts of the citizens, as many people believed that their effort had brought back courage and smiles all over the city. The tricycle truck played an important role as a means of transportation that was essential to Hiroshima's post-war recovery and economic development. At that time, the truck was lovingly called by the nickname Bantanko by the citizens. Known as 90-yen taxi, the Type PB tricycle passenger taxi was a popular means of getting from A to B in the city of Hiroshima in those harsh times. Tricycle trucks were a common sight in post-war Hiroshima. Later in 1949, a 4-seater tricycle passenger car, based on the tricycle truck Type GB, with a modified open cargo space was developed. The following year saw a launch of not another remodeled tricycle truck, but the brand new 6-seater 701cc tricycle passenger car developed as an authentic tricycle passenger vehicle. But the sad fate was awaiting for the tricycle passenger cars. Due to the full-scale production of small 4-wheel passenger cars which began in 1952, the tricycle trucks slowly disappeared from the streets. But as a constant rule, surviving needs a constant change, so was needed by the Mazda. Now, without the rotary engine, there would probably be no Mazda. And without Mazda, the rotary engine certainly wouldn't have been in production for nearly 50 years. It was Mazda's engineers who took Felix Wankel's unique engine design concept to fruition and commercial success 5 decades ago. Now, what's this rotary engine that carried Mazda? A rotary engine is smaller and lighter than a conventional piston engine, with a superior power-to-weight ratio. As it has no reciprocating parts, just a 3-sided rotor spinning in a housing, it is quieter and smoother as well. The rotary also offers outstanding performance for a given displacement. This was a big carrot to a company full of car enthusiasts. In the 1950s and 1960s, Japan's Ministry of International Trade and Industry, the architect of the country's post-war industrial policy, was trying to make its nascent automotive sector globally competitive. It wanted to streamline the number of car makers, reasoning that bigger manufacturers would be more likely to compete with the US and European heavyweights. Smaller automotive manufacturers, such as Mazda, were vulnerable to a forced merger. But a think-different carmaker, pioneering a bold new type of engine, was much more likely to maintain its independence. Entering the rotary engine, a distinct reason to buy a Mazda, a car that appealed to fans of driving rather than just to those who simply wanted to get from A to B. And this is how a constant change philosophy helped Mazda float. While other carmakers had tried and failed to make the rotary engine a success, Mazda doggedly refused to let the challenges of this complex engine get in its way. Mazda's engineers, led by Kenichi Yamamoto, eventually not only solved the problem with a graphite aluminum alloy seal, but also cured other drawbacks, such as excessive oil consumption and a lack of low-end torque. At last, the rotary engine became feasible in real world, combining reliability with spectacular power for its size. This winning combination led to significant sales success for Mazda in the 1970s. Around 100,000 rotary-driven cars were sold in the US in 1972 alone, and the rest of that decade saw half of Mazda's car production powered by the rotary engine. And even to this day, Mazda, the company started by a small fisherman's son, never fails to amaze. And we, as an individual or company, can learn a lot from this journey. That is it for the day, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you have ever owned a Mazda, let us know about the experience in the comments below. Also, subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon for more amazing business biographies. And we'll see you in the next one.